Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Me, Deb, the omnivorous reader, Reapy Cheap, small dinosaur and destroyer of books whenever he can get his little beak on them. And he's a very unsettled bird today, so he's trying to. Anyhow, the review of the day is The Wind from Nowhere by J.G. Ballard. So I like Ballard. I've got issues, but never mind. I do like Ballard very much in general, and I had just finished one post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic on the edge type book. That's Flare from Roger Zelazny and Thomas T. Thomas. Enjoyed it thoroughly, so I thought I'd hop over to the other side of the pond and read an English version. So this fantastic little penguin science fiction is one that I got a while ago, and I've been saving it for a rainy day, and it was indeed a rainy day the day I started it. And straight afterwards, these massive winds started racing through, which was also surprisingly appropriate to the book. I don't think I'm going to read one about volcanic eruptions next. I don't think I could take the excitement. So the cover is very much this beautiful flash art in appearance. Once again, another science fiction that would make a marvelous tattoo. The artwork is by Alan Aldridge, which is written in tiny, tiny purple letters on the back cover. Seriously, you need an eyepiece to read those. And right beside it, you've got this rather nice portrait of J.G. Ballard as a young man. I think this is a first Penguin publication from 1967. And for the fact that someone has crossed out their name, other than that, it's in very good condition, and I'd like to keep it that way. So J.G. Ballard, let's say a word about. J.G. Ballard was English author, 1930, died in 2009. Novelist, short story writer, essayist. He came to be associated apparently with the New Wave science fiction in England. In his career with apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic novels, everyone's heard of The Drowned World. But apparently, The Wind from Nowhere was his first novel, in that he'd only published short stories. So he was a very experienced writer. He'd only ever published short stories of science fiction before that. And it is the one that you don't seem to hear talked about very much, possibly because it is the first. It fits very firmly into that early apocalyptic style, and it is really quite unique. I don't think I've ever read anyone who's written something quite like it. In this one, our apocalyptic style scenario is a wind, which starts from nowhere for no reason. It whips around the globe, going fastest at the equator, but increasing steadily by 5 miles per hour every day, every 24 hours. So when we start the novel, I think we're still under 200 miles per hour. I think I heard it saying that 170 springs to mind, and people can still move around outside, and we watch as it slowly grows throughout the novel until it's around about 300 miles per hour, and everything is just being stripped off the surface. So our primary protagonist, in a way, we see him throughout the novel, Maitland. Dr. Maitland is at the airport, and he was planning to leave England and his wife, who the marriage has been failing for a while, and take a flight to Canada. But right now, most airplanes are grounded. The airports are full, and he decides to go back to his flat in the city, London. And he's planning on trying to get a ship to take him to Canada instead, but we slowly see that slow worsening of the situation. And in a way, I found it a very Wyndham style world-ending scenario. You don't have the big flashbang type ending. You've got this understated, cleverly crafted, very well written, very erudite central character seeing us through these apocalyptic events, and we see it from all sorts of different angles. So we start with Maitland, as I said, and he goes back to London and he finds out, he gets these small bits of information like the coast is being ravaged. We hear on the news that the Queen Mary, a huge ocean liner, is abandoned and that the seas has been pushed onto the rocks, I think, and the seas are too heavy for rescue effects to be. The sea is too heavy. If I was an editor, I'd edit that out, but you're just going to have to laugh at me. The seas are too high for effective rescue of the passengers on board. And we get all these snippets from different places. We then move away from Maitland and we move to Lanyon, who is a submarine commander. He has made it to Genoa in Italy, and he's being sent inland to collect a person of importance to the US Navy, and we follow him on that journey. And because the winds are already quite high and it's closer to the equator, so the winds are higher, he has to take an APC, an armored personnel carrier, and they're traveling very slowly. And as he travels in to retrieve this person and then back again, we slowly see the effects of the worsening wind. Now, when we started, some windows are being blown in, some structures that are older aren't too good. We hear that around the equator, third world countries and Pacific low-lying islands are having a particularly hard strife of times. But areas like London and developed Europe and the northern USA are having problems, but it doesn't seem insurmountable. Slowly they become insurmountable. As the wind increases, we hear everything is being basically scoured away from the earth. Cities, people, basements, walls, everything. Trees, topsoil, finally the water itself. And it's a very exciting scenario that's written in a very understated way. Now, I did say it's a lot like Wyndham, and I'm thinking Kraken Wakes and the Day of the Triffids, in that sense that you've got this unusual scenario with the usual ordinary people reacting to it and how it all comes together. And The Wind from Nowhere is very much like that, only you have got multiple points of view. Now, one way in which I feel that Ballard differs significantly from Wyndham is in terms of his characterization. I think this is similar to other Ballard stories in that while Wyndham will create many relatable and convincing characters that you enjoy following, and he builds tension between characters through conflict using divergent yet believable opinions and scenarios. Ballard, however, will create a likable or relatable character or two, but coming into conflict with unlikable and unrelatable ones, such as Maitland's soon-to-be ex-wife, Susan. I feel that Ballard has a higher cynicism towards humanity than Wyndham did, and Ballard has got a few other quirks that mean that while I will always enjoy his writing, immensely respect his visions of science fiction and speculative fiction, I can never quite find him 100% enjoyable. He's almost never a 5 out of 5 read for me. He's almost always a 4 out of 5 because I love so much about him, but there's elements to his descriptive powers that I don't love. He's hard to read. His information is densely packaged. This is a 186 page book. That isn't very much, and I read fast, but a Ballard book will take me days. It will take me as long as a David Brin that's this wide, because the flow of the writing for me doesn't just totally jive. I enjoy it, but it's slow, and I have to concentrate on it to get the visual images that he's obviously trying to impart. So, The Wind from Nowhere, we've got some amazing visuals. We've got a hotel that just slowly falls into its own basement like a house of cards going crash, crash, crash down. We've got walls teetering in the wind that suddenly blow them away. You've got the images of people who were sheltering in the underground of London As the waters start rising, they have to escape. They reach the edge of the tunnel, and as soon as the wind catches them, they're just basically picked up and flown off into the wind, turning in the wind and bumping onto things as they go. These are amazing visuals, but Ballard doesn't hold your hand with that. You need to provide those visuals for yourself. And for me, I need to read it slowly, because somehow between the written word, which is beautiful, and the actual visual, I don't get it that fast from him. Another thing that Ballard does almost inevitably is he has characters go off and do truly weird, inexplicable things. And in this book, that's normally Maitland. Nearly everyone else makes sense, but Maitland will suddenly decide he's made it back to London. London is under siege. Nearly everything's falling down and everyone's sheltering in the underground. He is working as a doctor for part of the British intelligence, I think it is, where they go out, they rescue people in armoured personnel carriers, they bring them back to safety. He's walking through an underground full of refugees when he encounters his porter, who tells him that his wife has refused to leave the apartment, which is clearly in imminent danger of full collapse. And he just abandons everything and goes after her. Now, when I say it like that, it really doesn't seem that unlikely. Even if you're estranged from someone and you don't love them anymore, you're still going to care about their well-being. But the way it's presented is Maitland's just doing this thing, and it's an important thing. It's like, oh, I'll just stop doing this. I'll desert everyone and I'll go off to look for Susan, who I haven't missed or thought about a single time since I left her. It didn't make any sense. Later on in the book, Maitland decides that he wants to go in a particular direction. He waits his chance in the APC, grabs out a metal torch and smashes all the instruments in order to force the commander to go where he wants him to. Again, there's no particular reason why he should do any of these things. Maitland is being used by Ballard as a way to move the story through the scenes that he wants us to see. And it's about scenes you want to see rather than an actual plot development. Because I've got to say, in terms of plot development, it's not high. And I found the same thing in The Drowned World. Beautiful images. Was there a plot? I might have blinked and missed it. Still, very enjoyable book. In as much as you've got any main narrator, like I say, it's Maitland, though we see many other people. And Maitland is quite enjoyable. Even though I had to keep checking, he wasn't distinctive. I had to keep going back to the beginning of the book and checking that that was actually his name, because there was also a Marshall and there were a couple of other M's lurking around the place. But you do have that continuity throughout the book, and maybe other people will relate to Maitland more than I did. Dunno. There is also a theme of a powerful man who builds a pyramid, and we're introduced to this concept in these little italicized precursors to some chapters. Now, when the italicized bits first started appearing, I thought maybe we're going to get some sort of explanation for where this wind came from, because I would have liked an explanation of how this was happening. It's not an everyday occurrence. I haven't seen that happen. There seems to be no reason for it to happen, and Ballard obviously didn't bother to think of one, because we're not ever given an explanation. Anyhow, this pyramid is a completely different subplot, I guess. But again, I think it's mainly there for the very pretty visuals which it supplies us. Speaking of pretty visuals, I absolutely love this cover. As I said, it's beautiful and it's weird, and as you read through the book and you pick it up, you see more of how this cover relates to it. So those strange white things near the top, which look like they should be starfish, are actually aeroplanes that are bending and warping, and that the ocean below is being thrown into a frothy mess by this wind that is circling the globe. The snakes and ladders type building, I'm pretty sure, is meant to be the Eiffel Tower, and at the edge that might be a French flag, I'm not sure. The blue snaky thing with England at the top Still not entirely sure what that is, but I think that the orange snaky thing with the American flag at the top is meant to be the Empire State Building. Anyway, it's a really, really good cover. So kudos to Alan Aldridge for knowing what was happening in the book and doing that. Okay, The Wind from Nowhere by J.G. Ballard. If you like your post-apocalyptic style, I thoroughly recommend it. If you like English authors, I thoroughly recommend it. I don't quite get the new wave thing, but I'm a little bit fuzzy on what new wave in England really was. So I probably need to educate myself on that. Let me know if you've read it. Let me know if you love Ballard and you think I'm wrong to not give him 5 stars, or just comment any way you like, because I love seeing the comments and I love reading good books. And you too should read good books and have a great day. Bye.